Welcome to You're Not Alone, the business podcast. My name's Phillip Keenan and I'm a director of Bishop Collins. Today I have the pleasure of having and hosting Mark Greenwood, owner of multiple Anytime Fitness franchises on the Central Coast.
Thanks, Phil.
Glad to have you. Mate, thanks for coming along. We might get kick-started just to sort of seek to understand a little bit about your journey in business, and in particular, how it began. And how you got to where you are now.
Wow. In 31 years, I've only got 40 minutes.
Good luck.
Yeah. Okay, so we've been going for 31 years that we started our own first fitness centre, which was 4-in-1 Fitness. I did start with one of my really good mates. His parents had a fitness centre at Beecroft, which I used to, for 10 years, even go back further. Motor mechanic through the day, fitness instructor at night. So fitness was my passion and I loved doing it. So I thought I'd have a good crack at running my own fitness centre.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Darren came along and joined me and that. So for me, it was a massive learning curve in business. Unfortunately, Darren oversold himself, said he could run the business and stuff like that, but we found out he couldn't. So I was sort of the backbone of everything. So to cut a long story short, after 3 years, we parted ways. Right. I bought his side out and then I was on my Pat Malone sort of thing. But most probably if I could salute Bishop Collins. So Terry Bishop was my first accountant.
Right.
And when we started the business, he said, you need to draw up a partnership agreement, stuff like that. So that's the bit of paper I put in front of Darren to go, we are no longer a partnership sort of thing. So
it turned out to be good advice.
Yes. So going way back then, that was gold. And really it was a steep learning curve for me in running a business. I did get involved with Fitness New South Wales, Fitness Australia. I was learning all the time. So it was massive learning. If I sort of said for the first 5 years, there was no light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it was a grind.
And I sort of, it's hard work and most probably the whole journey has been hard work and I don't want to take that away. There's no easiness in it sort of thing. Pretty well with the one club we did build, we did get it cranking quite well actually. It went really, really good.
Where was that? What site was your first one?
Miami.
Yeah.
So 4-in-1. So we called it 4-in-1 because it was an old squash centre with 11 courts, and we converted it from 11 squash courts to finally down to 4 courts. So we had squash fitness, we had indoor rock climbing, we had volleyball, beach volleyball outside.
Oh, so it was quite diverse.
Oh yeah, we're the place to be.
Yeah, right.
We were the hit place.
So what year was that?
31 from now.
Okay, yeah. You need an accountant to work that out.
I do. I can do the 30.
It's okay. It's all good.
94. Is that right? Yep.
Roughly.
And it was, obviously I was a few years younger, but it was a really good hip place to be. We then most probably the beach volleyball, having multiple things, it was hard yakka as well sort of thing. So we end up then going, obviously Darren and I parted ways after 3 years and stuff like that. So I sort of concentrated more on the things which worked best for us.
Mm-hmm.
And in business, you hear of having multiple streams of income and all this type of stuff, but really it does take your mind. I've got lots of stories about take your mind off what's the best thing for you sort of thing. So we did have squash was pretty easy, but we end up, it worked out better to wrap squash up as well because even seeing the squash courts were booked out from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock every night of the week type thing. It didn't cover its own income, let alone it's cleaning the courts, all electricity. So we ended up renting the space out, which gave us more money as well.
And squash as a sport seemed to reduce in popularity over time as well.
Yeah, well, squash, when you look back, squash used to be the only indoor exercise for people to do type thing. Right. So it is a case that it's, fitness centres have come along, indoor soccer's come along, so a lot of indoor sports have come along, which unfortunately pushed squash out.
Yeah.
Which I actually enjoyed squash, so it was a shame for me to do that.
You had to find a new passion.
Yeah. And then actually, unfortunately for squash, we then we took over, bought out, if I sort of say bought out, Fitness 2000 or F2.
Oh, yeah.
Which would have been 22 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that had 8 squash courts, which we sort of wrapped those things up as well.
As well, yeah.
Yeah, so we then just concentrated just on the fitness side of it. Then shortly after that, we did go to Diggers at the Entrance, put a fitness centre in there as well.
And F2 was at Erina, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at that point you had 3 sites.
Yes.
You had Wyoming, you had Erina, and then you had a site that you were operating out of Diggers.
Yeah.
And they were all under the 4-in-1
The
brand?
4-in-1 banner.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it was a case of growing business. Actually, if I sort of touch on other things here, like I should have learned from my first partnership. When we're doing,
Did you go again?
Yeah, I know. I should have learned.
Yeah.
But then going into Fitness 2000, sorry, Erina and the Entrance, I had a partner. He was my manager, and he wanted a piece of the action, so he wanted to be a 25% shareholder in these other two.
Okay.
So I did sort of write up an agreement of how, like 4-in-1 Fitness, to me, held the intellectual property of how these things ran and stuff like that, which then came good for when I had to part with this other partnership, because it seems like I should have learned from the first partner where he's just said, I'm an owner, I don't have to do anything, and people should do what I say.
Oh, right, okay.
And so this person, as soon as he became a 25% shareholder, he seemed to disappear and I couldn't find him. And he thought he didn't have to work as well.
I just wanted you to do all of the work, but he wanted 25% of the profits.
Yeah, and I explained that when you own your own business, like there's no 8-hour day things. If it's 12 hours, if it's 16 hours, it's
what's required.
Yes.
Right now, some days that might not be 8 hours for that particular day.
Yeah.
But then other days it might be 20.
Yeah. I would say it's always a minimum 8 hours. If I was sort of talking to people of, to get ahead in life, mate, there's no sick days, and even hangovers you turn up. It's only once I've had a really bad hangover and I had
to stump up the next day.
Yeah, I've been pretty good. I was not allowed to drink and drive past everyone. So the journey then, and most probably because Wyoming was really cranking. Yeah, it was supporting the startup of these other clubs, because starting fitness centres is for the first couple of years you're not cutting the mustard, you're not covering rent, equipment and all that type of stuff. So
they're quite capital intensive, aren't they? There's a lot of capital that's required to get a fitness centre going. Yeah,
so we most probably, like, even if I go back to when we started Wyoming, we started that with secondhand equipment and really cheap stuff type thing to bring it along type thing. And then so then I parted ways with that partner. Yeah. And then you'd think that I would have learnt a third time.
There was a lot of learnings on your journey.
I know. It is. Well, 31 years. But you do, it is a big, I won't say investment, but energy you've got to put into starting a business, running a business and stuff like that. So I was thinking if I had someone had a buy-in, who would, I'm into it, boots and all with you. Yeah, it would sort of make it easier for me. But unfortunately, both those two made life harder for me.
Yeah, right.
Because they were technically getting paid the same as I was, but not turning up for work,
not contributing. Yeah,
yeah. And then we sort of went on. So I'd say we're coming up to. I thought I was going pretty good at fitness and stuff like that. And we ended up we looked at a franchise called Healthy Inspirations. Through this before your time,
I was going to say, is Healthy Inspirations, is that still around?
I'm not sure if it is. So I'd be nearly 20, maybe 20 years ago.
Okay. So how old were you at that point?
I started when I was 34. So I would have been 44 most probably when we did Healthy Inspirations,
Right.
which for me, it was a women's weight loss centre.
Okay.
And counselling and massage chair support, dietary advice and all that type of stuff as well. So I would think, so my numbers, we nearly had 2,000 members at Wyoming. So
wow, right. That's a big site.
Yeah. Actually, so I think I did this before expanding to the other two clubs. We had, so my numbers showed that I only had to get 220 people to be profitable.
Yep.
Mate, I've got a fitness centre with 2,000 members. 220 will be
a breeze.
A breeze. Anyway, so we ended up going, we gave it a crack, and my manager, who was with us for my first 11 years, she wanted 25%.
Okay, right.
Cut.
Yep.
And I won't say she disappeared. She worked hard. She was good to the business and good to me and stuff like that. But it was a case of, do you reckon I could get 220 people? So it was.
Oh, you couldn't convince 220 people to buy into the brand.
Yeah, it was to get members, really, just to get memberships. And most probably where it was a challenge for me was because I was a bloke and it was women's only, I just need. It just hurt my head. it was just like, I'm going to do a totally different job.
Right.
And
you must be unique. You can feel comfortable while having a sore head.
Yeah. Anyway, so if I sort of said, we needed 220 members, we're much like 210. So we're nearly at the line, but to maintain it there was a hard yakka.
Yeah.
And we ended up even moving it. We did it for 3 years, the length of the lease, and then we relocated to Wyoming. So then Wyoming took out another 2 squash courts, put it in there. So we must probably survived another 18 months. Then I just went, mate, this is just
not working.
This is just hard yakka for a lot of work and I'll say next to no return type thing.
Yeah.
Which nearly brings me to going back to Erina, because I'm going to be touching on something here. When we were at Erina, I just went, what a great idea if we had a coffee. There was a spare area, so we did a coffee shop there.
Right.
So we did this coffee shop, and it was pretty well cranky. It was with the fitness centre. We're doing protein shakes. It was going good.
Yeah.
And it was another thing which I went, hey, this is hurting my head. I'm putting a lot of effort into selling a $5 coffee.
Yeah.
Should I be selling a $5 coffee, or should my energy be in selling an $800 membership type thing?
Yeah, the profit margin on the membership is going to be much better.
Yeah. So, and it was funny how, the bell rung when I had someone knocking on the counter going, hey, I'm waiting for a coffee, when I was sitting there, showing someone how I can change their life, by them starting on a fitness program. Anyway, so that's when I just went, you know what? I'm just going to do what's best.
Yeah.
So it's nearly a case that even with looking at the Healthy Inspirations and having the coffee shop and stuff like that, it is a case of much probably focus on what we do best.
Yeah.
Which, and I know, Phil, you and I we had this. I was talking to you. I'm not a big reader or anything, but a book I read was the E-Myth. And
yes.
I know in the E-Myth they do say that in the first 5 years, 80% of businesses will pretty well, fail, give up, sell.
Yep.
They won't get to 5.
All of the above.
Yeah. And there's many reasons why, and it's because it's tough, it's hard, it is all those things.
Yeah, well, it requires sacrifice.
Yeah, and so for me, there was 2 little businesses there which didn't get the 5-year mark.
Yeah, micro businesses within your business.
Yeah, they didn't really didn't really make the distance sort of thing.
Mm.
And if I sort of then the book does go on, and I'm pretty sure it says then in the next 5 years, only 20% of those businesses will survive to 10 years.
Yeah.
So it must probably, I should have read the book before I did all these other things. So if I sort of give that book a bit of a rap, I will. So it was most probably, I did sort of then take that approach that we just do what we do best. And, and like we, I know it's not meant to be plugging the fitness centre or anything, but it's I'm very passionate about what we do, and we inspire people to change their lives, and and that's what we do. That's
a great purpose.
Yeah, and it changes. I think it kept a good focus for who we are. So it is even when if I sort of say, yep, we're selling people a membership, it's not a case that we're selling a membership to hit stats, hit bonuses, hit that.
No,
we look after the community and that. And and we're going to change this person's life.
Absolutely.
Like I'm gobsmacked if someone walks out of our fitness centre and they didn't join. I'm gobsmacked because fitness is, and health and fitness is good for business, life, sanity, everything.
Absolutely. And it's just general movement is good for people.
Yeah.
Right. You're not necessarily trying to be the next bodybuilder or drop certain amount of kilograms or whatever. It's really just about maintaining a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Mark. So you've been in a number of sort of business partnerships throughout your time. Some positive experiences, some not so positive ones. So for anybody that was seeking to go into business with somebody else, what would be some of the things that you'd recommend?
I would most probably recommend not to. If I can reflect back onto the book, The E-Myth, which I said, they say 95% of partnerships don't work.
Right.
So nearly, I've had 3 partnerships and none of them really worked. I do have one of my good mates who has been in partnership for about 20 years, but they, for me, and they're in the glazing business, but both of them are hard-working, very much the same type of people sort of thing. So that, it does work, but I think, and even if I sort of say with the Anytime Fitness piece, I know that there's lots of business owners or owners of the clubs, they, get a syndicate and all this type of stuff. So obviously you need a good rule book to go, these are the conditions, what's expected and all that type of stuff. I think if you're more or less, the Anytime would be more of a shareholder type thing. But if you've got people who are, mate, you've got to get your hands dirty and knuckle down and that, you'd really, really have to know the person. And really, I'd be saying you'd need to have a good rule book going, mate, this is how it is, and, and this is what's expected out of the partnership.
When you touched on that as well, I think you mentioned that Terry Bishop was somebody who recommended that you sign a partnership agreement or shareholders agreement for your first relationship. And that's great advice. And, you've called it a rule book. A solicitor would call it a partnership agreement or a shareholders agreement. But effectively, it's the same thing. It's like, well, how are we going to make decisions? What happens if our circumstances change? How do we get out? What are our boundaries? Is Phil in business with Mark and Phil's able to go out and buy a Lamborghini?
Yes.
Is that permitted? Probably not, right? But it's just establishing those rules up front, and particularly while people are agreeing. It's easy. I don't know the number of times I've heard people to go into business together and they say, "Oh no, it'll be fine." Like we're mates. We never disagree. Like we agree on everything, and I'm like, yeah, okay, for the moment, until you don't. So that's quite important. The other thing that you mentioned as well, which I might paraphrase as values. So where there's, you mentioned your mate who runs the glazier business, like where there's a strong alignment in terms of values, then generally some of those other things where disagreements can arise, they generally can be managed because there's a background of trust, respect, and value alignment. But where you have a misalignment of values, I think you mentioned in one of your relationships, it was kind of like, well, I'm an owner now, so I don't do any work and you can do it all. That's not going to really work. But ultimately because there's a misalignment of value.
Yeah. Well, it was more or less, my first partnership. So it was a case that but even the way he treated staff and everything.
In the same way.
Did, yeah. But, I was there for 12 hours a day and he was there for 4 hours a day and he wouldn't do anything type thing.
Yeah.
But he was walking home with the same pay, which was the grinding part.
I bet.
As well.
But how did you transition then from, so you've got some 4-in-1 branded sites. Something changed again for you.
You're going to talk about the bombshell.
No.
Well, as you said, the perfect storm.
Yeah, well, what's a perfect storm? So let's talk about that.
Okay, so most probably 15 years of, or most probably 14 years. And most probably what happened, Phil said it was a perfect storm. So there was a couple of things happening, as in we had a competitor turn up and they were charging, I think, $295 a week, and here we were at $18 a week. So this is most probably, which was near our Wyoming club, and Wyoming was the backbone supporting all the other clubs and everything. And so it was a case of we had that competitor come along, so we lost a big market share. Our memberships crashed, sort of thing.
Well, hard to compete with that price, right?
Yeah, and what else did we have? The global financial crisis. We had, I was going through a separation. There was one more there. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, so we had the perfect storm happening, and most probably, that's right. So we had, and we'd more or less, so my way out of doing this, Anytime Fitness did just come to Australia. So there was 3 clubs open, and my gut feeling, and also I put pen to paper or finger to computer to work out if the new system would work. And more or less from the Anytime Fitness, really the memberships were $13 a week, where our running costs for running 4-in-1 Fitness was, we needed $18 a week from the membership base.
To make it work.
Yeah, and so this Anytime thing came to Australia, and I looked at it and just said, mate, this is a great product. People will want to exercise 24/7. I had my accountant, Brad, back then.
Yep.
My wife, my friends, banks, everyone said, you got rocks in your head, Greenie, forget about it.
Right.
You're going to go broke.
Right.
And in my head, I go, mate, my ass was on the ground already, because we were in the perfect storm anyway. So it was a case I was looking towards the future to go, we need to do something different anyway. And also because the product, Anytime Fitness, I didn't want it to be my competitor.
Yeah.
There was 3 open in Australia, sort of thing. Anyway, so we did, we most probably accumulated, also because it was the perfect storm, we accumulated quite a bit of debt to the ATO type thing. And more or less so, with my accountant being Brad, we come up with a formula, really a proposal to the bank. So we were going, that was the other thing. I was getting rid of my 25% partner.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we came up with a formula to the bank to say, we're going to sell, we own the building at Wyoming. So out of that, if I talk numbers, sold it for 2.4, we owed 1.1, but also then I had to pay out my partner. So we said, yep, we'll pay out the partner. We'll do this, we'll do that. We'll pay the ATO. And there was a magic number of $100,000 left over for us to go to Anytime Fitness.
Oh, to open up to join the network.
To brand it, pay for our franchise fees and all that type of stuff. So it was a case that, we went to the bank. We said, this is the proposal. This is what we want to do. So it's been rubber stamped by Bishop Collins. And, you'd think that would be, it's not.
Hopefully worth something.
Yeah, you'd think I'm just not going crazy. I'm just making all this stuff up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we ended up going to, the building went for sale, and we got a buyer the day before settlement. And sorry, not them. But
a major bank.
A major bank, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's not ANZ, they're good. A major bank.
That was a plug for ANZ.
Yeah, that was a plug. So the day before, they just said, we're not sure about giving you back this $100,000.
Oh, right. Well, that's good to know the day before.
Yeah, for you to go to Anytime Fitness. And also the ATO bit, we'll just put that on the burner. Mate, we'll pay everything else off. and stuff like that.
Right.
They said, we've got to read your franchise agreement.
Mm.
We haven't had a chance to do this. Even seen they've had it for 2 months.
Right.
And then so unfortunately, I'd already reduced our fees to go to Anytime Fitness down to $13 a week. And I knew it was going to take 2 weeks to do it. We were going to lose $45,000 over this. And it was all in plan and everything until we made the change. But no, the bank stretched it out for 2 to 3 months, and we were down another $200,000 by this
other major bank, but not ANZ.
Not ANZ. That's the one. So it was a case that then when they finally released the $100,000, we just went to Anytime Fitness and then the ATO, we worked out a way to pay them off, and people, even my bookkeeper said, Greenie, I don't know how you're alive still. And I go, mate, got a pulse? I'm good.
Still able to move forward.
Yep, going. And it was a case of I was working 16-hour days because we were opening at 5:30 in the morning, closing at 10 o'clock at night, and I was manning every single hour for 3 to 6 months type thing.
And when Anytime Fitness, they were obviously quite patient during this process.
Yes. Well, we doubled them from 3 to 6 clubs.
Okay. So you were early on in the Anytime Fitness journey.
Yeah.
Right.
Big time.
Wow.
Big time. So we were, so they'll be patient to us. And
absolutely. Well, when you're starting out.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there are a few more than 6 now.
Yeah. Yes. So it is most probably a case that like now there's over 550 in Australia.
Wow. That's a large network.
Number one fitness franchise in the world, I'm pretty sure. I think they even was number one franchise in the world globally once, or 1 year, 2 years, whatever. So it is, if I sort of say, apparently marrying my wife's meant to be my best decision, but definitely my best business decision.
That's your second best decision, was changing to the Anytime Fitness franchise network.
Yeah, so it was a very, very good financial decision as well. And it was the product is most probably the thing which I'm, it's, if you do get with a franchise, going back to the EMEDs, they do say like it's a 75% success rate if you do join a franchise because of the support.
More support, yeah.
And it was a case that's part of the reason I wanted to join a franchise as well, because before I was 4-in-1 Fitness and I was just sort of on my Pat Malone, asking myself, is that a good idea or not? And things like that. And, and those hardship times, and it would have been for a good couple of years, we were battling to keep head above water and stuff like that. But I still put it down, passion, desire, determination, stubbornness, but the will to win is, that's much probably more me, but also had great support with Brad from Bishop Collins. Like he was in there, boots and all with me.
During that period where it was tough.
Yeah. And also my wife was, Linda, big support. Like she was propping me up. Like there was times I was even sick as a dog. She was pushing me out the door at 5:30. No.
Telling you to get to work and suck it up.
Yeah. It was. There was a time I was crook, but mate, still had to do it.
Yeah.
Brave face and everything like that.
I mean, there's pros and cons associated with franchises, and you've spoken about some of the sort of the pros. If you were advising some of our listeners who were thinking about going into a franchise, I mean, what advice would you give them?
Be open-minded. Just do your research and that type of thing. Like you do hear some ugly stories.
Bad stories, yeah.
Yeah.
Because not all franchises are good.
No. No. And I think at the end of the day, all franchises, they want to succeed, and obviously they by Anytime, especially if they look at Anytime Fitness and things like that. That's a huge success. And I know there's other fitness franchises, but I think you've got to find out the like the Anytime one it shined to me a lot more than the other. So I think you've got to do your research and stuff like that. And there's no golden egg or anything. It still comes down to hard work, determination, thinking outside thinking outside the square, and getting a great team support. Like I think Training is always the capital for your staff.
Yeah.
Get the right people in the right job. Like I've even
like building if you're going to put a team on the football field or the soccer field.
Yeah.
You need everybody that playing to their strengths.
Yeah.
You're not going to put the goalkeeper in striker.
No.
Well, you might. I mean,
yeah.
But you're not going to be very effective.
Yeah. You surround yourself. like we do surround ourselves with people, especially to do their job type thing. But I was just about to use a coffee shop. There's a place I buy coffee from.
Okay.
And I reckon the person at reception shouldn't be there. You should be out the back cooking because the cook's a really great communicator.
Right.
He should be at the front desk.
Yeah. Switch them up.
Yeah. So you've got to have people in the right position sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, and that type of thing. But, technically they say 20, 75% succeed type thing.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to take away the hard work.
That's required.
Yeah. Actually, one of the stories, so people must probably think I'm quite lucky now.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. I look lucky. But I always say the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
And, and it is, the ups and downs of business, like there is, we've gone through, the global financial crisis. I think when I very first started my fitness centre, I think we were back in the days when interest rates were 18% and stuff like that. So for us to get loans, they were uphill battles.
Expensive.
Back then it was hard. And then we've just gone through COVID and, and stuff like that. That was scary times. I know I came home closing up then 5 fitness centres and going, have we just lost absolutely everything? We have a nice house and all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a case of doing it. But, lucky.
It turned out okay.
We come out and again, we still had to knuckle down. It was scary times. And
well, you still needed to adapt to the change. I think that's the important point. It's like, well, okay, in business you're presented with a range of different challenges. And there's a couple of ways that you can respond to them. You can put your head in the sand and hope that it goes away and that your circumstances will be different. Or you can look at the facts as they're presented and make decisions.
Well, actually, COVID-1, if I sort of throw COVID-1 into it, I looked at that as, I won't say an opportunity, but I sort of rocked back and sort of said, righto, we lose 3% of our members every month. We're closed for 3 months. We could be 10% down on our membership by the time we open up, sort of thing.
Yep, theoretically.
So I got the axe out and got to the business and go, how can I reduce our running costs and all that type of stuff? So, so I went creche, because we rent creches at two of our big clubs. I went, right, creches are gone, and because we don't want young Johnny to get sick or anything, so I use that as an excuse and just sharpen the act. Like we used to have, bad for members, but we used to have fruit, lollies, flowers, and coffee there and stuff like that. I rocked back and I went, truth, we're spending $1,000 a month per club.
Yeah, which is a lot.
Yeah. And so I went, right,
gone.
All that's gone.
No more lollies, no more flowers.
And so most probably when we reopened the doors, we only lost 4% of our members. I went, oh, that's sick. So I actually I think I saved close to 20% of our expenses by just trimming things down.
That's quite interesting. So you use that as an opportunity to structurally look at your business and kind of go, well, are there things that we're spending money on or providing services and support that we're providing that are not valued necessarily by our members or that are adding value to our business and brand?
Yeah, it was quite funny when I did look at, and we didn't get any, people just, the coffee. It didn't affect our retention or anything because we thought we were working on retention by providing these things. Yeah. So really what we then, we're big, like numbers of the things which I play with. So obviously tool to sale ratios, how many phone calls, what's conversions, and what's our retention. So how can we retain people? And this comes back to being passionate. So I truly believe if you're a member of our fitness centre, I want you training 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay.
Live longer, live stronger, and all that type
Absolutely.
of stuff. Also, it works on our retention. If people are exercising, they will stay.
So there's a greater propensity, if they're coming more frequently, there's a greater propensity for them to continue. It becomes a life-changing habit.
Yes. Yeah. That's what we go for. So
that's what you aspire to.
Yeah. So it's even in COVID, like we had staff contacting our members. We're in big we weren't charging them anything, but we're in contacting them constantly, emails, providing home exercises, all that type of stuff. So it comes back to us being, loving what we do. We care about our members, the community, and all that type of stuff. And that, forgot how we got to this.
That's okay. No, I mean, look, I think what you're saying is membership's important, right?
Yes.
And you're passionate and believe in what you stand for.
That's right. They didn't need the coffee. They didn't need the lollies. They didn't need the fruit or the flowers.
Well, that wasn't ultimately adding to pursuing your purpose.
It was us. It was us just providing the service, the other services of keeping them active. So we contact them if they don't turn up after 7 days, 14 days, 21 days. So obviously there's systems built in into our businesses to contact them and things like that. So
because the membership base is important, right? Because if you don't have an appropriate membership base, you can't turn the lights on, you can't pay the labour, and you can't pay the rent.
Yes.
But you touched on before, something that I picked up on was you also said that our people are very important to us. And when I say people, I mean your staff.
Yes.
When you transitioned from sort of 3 clubs and then you got to a point where you were running 6, I mean, how are you supporting your team to make sure that the experience as part of the Mark Greenwood experience, which is being represented through the Anytime Fitness brand, how are you making sure that sort of stays on track?
Yeah, pretty well. With Linda, my wife, she was pretty well the operations manager for a long time. So having 6 clubs, mate, it was easy when it was 5 clubs because one day a week you'd be at one club.
Okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So when it went to 6, we went, this
There's not enough days in the work week.
I know, what's going on? So, but we just made sure, like managers meetings, and I won't say sales training, but yes, it is sales training, saying the right things, making sure all systems are being followed correctly. Most probably, if I sort of said it, having multiple clubs worked good because then I'd be running a spreadsheet to go, yes, how many inquiries, how many sales, how many phone calls are we making? So one of my sayings is that, we don't wait for things to happen, we make it happen.
Yeah, I like that saying.
Yeah, I don't sit here with my fingers crossed hoping people are going to walk in the door. We invite people in. So, we're asking for referrals from our members. We're outsourcing, to get inquiries and all that type of stuff. Okay. So they're numbers which we look at, which I look at to make sure it's happening. So having multiple clubs, I can compare everyone's stats, and my stat sheet goes to everyone, so they're looking at every other club as well.
Oh, because the data is shared, isn't it, across the network?
Well, I share it.
Yeah.
So I'm the only one who can see all clubs, all our clubs.
Yeah.
But then I pull it onto a spreadsheet, which then I share with all clubs. So no one can go, we've had bad inquiries because it was raining. I go, well, it was raining all over the whole coast.
It eliminates some excuses.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I looked at it as more as a positive, as in we can learn from this as well. Because I'd go, if I had a club which was just going crazy, and I'll just go, what are you saying? What are you doing?
Let's do what they're doing.
Yeah, and we share this information. So it's not really a case of roughing someone over the knuckles for doing bad. It's mostly what's someone doing good, and we're going to do the same.
Yeah, so you're using the high-performing club as an example of best practice and then go, well, what can we all learn from that? So a bit more of a collaboration by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
And sharing information and ideas.
Yeah, and most probably getting back to staff, one of our things which when we're employing staff, we don't employ someone, if someone turned up and sort of went, here's my resume, I'm a car salesman or I'm a salesman, if they're a salesman, means nothing to us, sort of thing. Really, what we do is, I think it's pretty unique how we do employ people. So we'll get, put a job out there. We're after, salespeople, reception people, whatever, and we'll get inquiries. So then we'll go through and we have one of our staff members, our HR or operations manager now. She'll go through and go, we've got 10 people coming in. These people I think are good. So we'll get them all in at the same time.
Oh, okay, right.
And because really what we're chasing is we want someone's personality. not what's written on a bit of paper.
Yeah, okay.
So first they've got to sound good on the phone when we're talking to them, and if we're inviting them in.
Yeah.
And then what we end up doing, so we'll have these 10 people. I'll sort of just go, thanks for everyone coming. I guess, this is just a group interview. And I said, really what it comes down to is we want to tell you who we are.
Yeah.
As well as we just want to know a little bit about you as well. Because obviously you've got to like us.
Yeah.
Because if you don't like who we are, you won't want to be here, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'll sort of just start with, okay, I'm Mark. I've got 4 kids. I've wife. I live Palm Grove. And I'll rattle off these things, and just minor things.
Mm.
And also actually, because then I get into why am I in the fitness industry, and there's a couple of unique questions which I have, which are just coming to me because I haven't done one of these. I'll let my staff do it now.
Yeah, you've delegated that role.
I've given them my questionnaires.
Sure.
And really, what it comes down to is, then Linda will get up, then our ops manager would get up and say the same story.
Yep.
And then we'll go, okay, now we want to know about you guys, but I want, and we've manned them with clipboards and pens and that.
Yeah.
And I want you to ask the person next to you the questions, and you can tell me about the person next to you.
Mm.
So it comes down to it. And I go, so the thing I want is their name, where do they live, do they have children? Most probably the key questions were, and why do you want to get into the fitness industry?
Yeah, what's important to them?
Yeah. So really what we're chasing is someone who is, I want to get into the industry because I want to change lives, or I've had their journey, they might have lost weight and it's changed their life or something. So really it comes down to, we've got to find out a bit of passion, because we're very passionate about it, and we want them to be, because if they're passionate about it, then they can sell it,
Yes.
and they can help change people's lives because their lives have been changed.
Yeah. Well, they can more easily relate to it, right? I mean, ultimately, it's difficult to sell something, but if you're a good listener and are able to identify with and understand need, well, then ultimately you're providing a solution to a need that particular person has.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter whether you're providing a gym membership, preparing financial statements and tax returns, servicing somebody's car, or maybe a little bit different in health, because usually it's like, well, I either need it or I don't.
Yeah.
But there's lots of other industries where that has application. And I really like that sort of group-based approach, because what you're really seeking to understand is well, I'm recruiting for attitude,
big time.
and I'm seeking to align with people who are as passionate about the industry as we are.
Yes.
So that there's value alignment.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's this disconnect between potentially where I have a bunch of people that are supporting me to achieve my purpose or mission who are not really aligned with it. It's like, oh, no, I'm just here because I don't want to work at the local sales car yard, and I thought the money was going to be a bit better.
Yeah.
Right? Which is not what you want.
And you can, nearly as soon as we say to them, start talking. And because obviously we need good communicators in frontline people, what we want.
Yep.
And you can just pick within a minute, you just go, yep, I'll keep an eye on them, because you watch their body language.
Yep.
Yeah, you can imagine someone going, hello, what's your name? Or, hi, Phil.
I've just been interviewed by the robot.
Yeah, I'm Mark, what's your name?
Sure.
And so you want someone who's out there type thing, which was really good. And another key question is, where do you want to be in 1 year's time and 5 years' time? So it's pretty good if they go, no, I want to be travelling around the world in 1 year's time.
Yeah, that's right. They don't get the job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then so that's something we do. Our team are passionate is most probably the thing, which is that,
which is integral to you when you're interviewing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And building your team.
Yeah. So I think with nearly every business, and you're trying to build something, that's what you're chasing. And nearly you've got to not get, and there's lots of times people, you'll lose staff, and you just got to nearly, I don't, I see my managers and even my wife, and she goes, oh, someone's
left again.
Someone's left. I look at it as nearly as an opportunity, because that's when you can get someone better.
Great.
And groom them even better, sort of thing. And it's nearly a case of nearly all the time I've always looked at that. So, and if someone wanted to leave, because obviously there's going to be clashes with, we've had personal trainers who want to leave, and I went, cool, I can change. Yeah, I can change with the way we run the personal training and things like that.
Well, it gives you an opportunity to look at doing something differently.
Yeah.
Which it seems as though throughout your journey in business, that's where a lot of your energy and attention has been focused. It's just like, well, okay, my circumstances are here. Where's the opportunity? Where does the opportunity lie? And it could be you could quite easily sit back and kind of go, well, this isn't fair and it's not my fault and why am I in this position? But it doesn't sound like that's really been your approach to date. It's more the other way, which is, okay, well, I've been presented with this challenge and my role as a business owner and a leader is to solve it.
Yeah.
And bring others along with me to support me with solving it.
Yeah.
I don't have to solve it on my own.
No.
But I do need to solve it. I ultimately need to make a decision.
Yeah. And pretty well all the time I've relied on, I'll have harebrained schemes of doing stuff, and I'll always go to, especially my wife and managers and my support people to go,
what do you think?
I'm thinking about this, and and nearly most of the times I get it over the line.
Yeah, okay, well that's good to know.
I buy enough votes.
Maybe. Well, I mean, that's one of the art of leadership, right? I mean, if you're not creating buy-in and encouraging others to believe what you believe, well, you're actually not leading anything.
Yeah.
You're a crusader on your own crusade.
Yeah. And obviously even along the journey of being the leader and stuff like that, we make it pretty clear to our staff that we don't want to be seen as you're the owners and, really you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But more or less I sort of, mostly because sport's my thing and I still play soccer and that, and I say to our team, and pretty well that's what I call them, is really, Linda and I are the coaches, so we're the coaches. Our managers, they're the captain of the team, and all of us are, mate, we're in the same game. We're on the same team.
We're all players.
We work together. And if anyone sticks the oar in the water to slow things down or give away an own goal, mate, we'll be having a little talk.
You don't want any lay down Sallys in your boat, is that what you're telling me?
Yes, of course. Sally. And that's what, and that's, so we've had to do some counselling and performance reviews is mostly what we do. And really we've always looked at, if someone's not performing, we always like to give them the opportunity to get themselves back to where they were.
Yeah.
And that's why we'd run a performance review and that. Because we think, always it's easier, mate, we've just invested a lot of time in training someone and everything. It's better if we sort of go, okay, how can we help you get past this if you're going through bad times and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes
it's just not
time to move on.
Yeah, and that's okay. Right. But having the open and honest conversation is part of building a great team.
Yeah. And even in our industry, I'd rather people be honest with us and even if because they'll learn a lot from us, like communication skills, telephone skills, how to, body language, all that type of stuff, realising people's personality profiles and that type of thing. So we get into that to teach them how to handle and talk to people. So it's a learning curve being with us as well.
Makes sense. So there's been some important aspects on your journey. People are important. You've gone through a couple of, had business partners, didn't have business partners, tried that a few times.
Yep.
Transitioned out of own brand into a franchise brand. That's a lot to kind of digest on the journey. But sort of what would you say is sort of maybe a couple of the key things that are most important in terms of making sure that you're on track or succeeding? What do you look at? How do you know that how do you know that your business is doing what it's supposed to be doing or achieving its business strategy? How do you know it's on track?
Most probably been doing a long time. So key performance indicators were always a thing which I was, looking at.
Quite focused on?
Yeah. Yep. And obviously as been doing it for so long, there's only a few which I sort of really look at. And I can just pretty well look at now. I think I just mainly look at membership growth or where a membership is.
Yep. So membership number trends.
Yeah. Yep. And like I know, I don't need data. I know that April and December is our quietest months, and so we'll even how we treat these months sort of thing, knowing we'll go backwards with membership because we'll lose between 2 to 3% of members per month.
Yep.
But the sales won't cover that type of thing. But my main thing is, growth is most probably the key thing, and maintaining it. And like the last couple of years we didn't go through a recession. What did we go through? Quite tight.
Yeah. That's right.
and
not a technical recession.
Yeah. And most probably they were the challenging times. So I was sort of just always, the business were in a holding pattern sort of thing. So it was I don't share really to my staff. I'm sort of going, mate, we still want to be, what can we do better? I think, you're always learning. Like it's still every day I go to work and we just don't do the same thing. But, I've got good creative staff. I let them off their lead to, if they're making a big, got an idea, they'll come to me with ideas. But we still have, we have monthly managers meetings, which we do look at the month ahead, or the month past and the month ahead. What are we going to do if we've got a promotion on and all that type of stuff.
So I guess you've got a set of key KPIs that you've developed. You've been at it a long time. You know when it's working and when it's not working.
Yeah.
And you measure and track your actual performance against that. And you're also engaging the staff and making sure that they're part of the conversation and sharing, not sharing all of the data with them, but as appropriate to sort of encourage and motivate and move them closer towards strategic objectives.
And also with our growth of our businesses, one of the things which I have put in place is a growth bonus. So they get, they'll get commission for sales, but also growth. So if we've got good growth happening, they're rewarded rewarded well for growth as well. So it encourages them to go, okay, growth is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, there's a personal reward for that.
Yeah.
So that helps.
Yeah. And, like we've got all our staff, we, pat them on the back, keep them boosted up. It is a case that it is the type of job where you can't come to work with a bad attitude. And one of my things, which I say, like all of us have got lives outside work.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you had a flat tire, your umbrella broke.
Yeah.
You
kicked your toe.
Yeah, you kicked toe. Mate, leave your problems outside. When you're at work, you're on stage.
Be present.
Yeah.
And
it's the place where you can leave the outside away. Like we're here to have fun, have energy and stuff like that.
That sounds like a good time. Can I come to your gym, Mark?
Yeah. The staff don't like it. Apparently, when I say, come on, we're going for a skip down the car park, because you can't not smile and skip, just to let you know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you also feel very awkward.
Yeah. Oh, no, I do it all the time.
Oh, that's quite funny. So the business is moving through a succession phase now. You went from 6 clubs. You're now down to 3. Another potential succession event coming. What is that? So what has been important in that journey, and what's benefited for you as part of that process? Yeah,
so naturally, I think it was a case of turning 60. People said, "Are you going to retire?" And it's funny how people you start thinking of doing things like that.
Yeah,
and then COVID-1 happened on my 60th.
It was a bit of a setback to the succession plan.
Yeah, so we were thinking about. It's funny how people do say, you start thinking, yep, I might start breaking down or something. Apparently, am I getting older?
I hope not.
But naturally, if I can even go on the other side, that all of a sudden it was a case of when we come out of COVID, I had to come out fighting again to, for the business. And then it's in a mindset, I started saying, no, I'm only 50.
Right.
And it's funny how it works big time that if you think you're younger, you are younger. Because I'm going, no, mate, I'm not selling. Anyway, so grandkids were much probably the things, much probably when, 4 years ago, first grandkid came along and stuff like that. So that was most probably the alarm bell.
Right.
which was, I want to spend more time. I want to spend, because, I was still, pre-COVID, I was still 4 days a week. I had a farm day Friday.
Okay.
Because I made that couple of years before that.
Yep.
But still, it was 8 to 12 hours a day type start. I might have been getting to 8 hours by then. I might have been getting normal. But so then COVID came along. We moved our office home, which they still stay there, and which has been a good thing for most probably stepping away from the business a lot more.
Yeah.
Because before I was most probably too available to, I'm a chatterbox and members would get me, and I wouldn't achieve as much as which I do at home. So grandkids came along, but then we did go through the process. Now I've just got to wind back to, so we ended up selling with the help of obviously Bishop Collins, which is the best way to wind down, if I call it an empire or
your empire.
And it was a case of, to get the best benefits, and that, which was the best benefits was not to sell all of them anyway. And it was pretty well one at a time was the goal. And so we've been rolling them down. So I think we sold the first one 3 years ago. Then we sold two 2 years ago. And we're sort of, life did change. And it was much probably a case, I didn't notice how hard I was working. Running 6 clubs, I didn't realise how much I was working till I got rid of 3 clubs. I went, it's truth, I was working hard.
Now this is easy.
Life's good.
And
so it is most probably, if I sort of reflect back over my life, it's most probably something which you go, yep, I work hard, and then you work hard so you don't have to work hard.
Absolutely. So that's a really good advice.
And it is a case of, we're coming to that time of life, and like my wife and I, if anyone's listening, we're very, very active people. So we mountain bike ride, we ski, we motorbike ride horses, still play soccer. So we're very active people. But also we do have now 11 grandkids.
That's a lot,
And
the Greenwood clan.
And they bring great joy to us and stuff like that.
So it seems like the succession event for you was more triggered by kind of a time or a coming of age or family circumstances changing, and off the back of that, you then reached out and sought support from an advisor to make sure that you were going to do it in a way that was going to ensure that you kept more money than you gave away in terms of income tax.
Yes.
So I think the takeaway there is really, succession planning, and I guess key decisions that you make in your business. Early engagement with an advisor will maximize what you keep, as opposed to what you don't.
And I think, if I say I'm lucky, but like I'm in an industry, I love what I do, sort of thing. So it does make it easy for, and it is part of who I am. Mark from Anytime Fitness. But it is a case of winding down, and you must probably, if I sort of go back and say it took me, 25 years to get up to 6 clubs type thing. So it took a while to build it, and I'd recommend people that you need time to wind it down correctly. Otherwise, the old taxpayers, he'll get his hands.
The taxman will get more than his fair share.
And we've worked hard, very, very hard, and we've had our ups and downs and challenges, and there's been a lot of blood on the table to get to where we are now. And it's, and if I was sort of saying to anyone who wants to be in business this long, mate, there's going to be some hard times, but hopefully if you plan for the good times, and really that's, again, going to the franchise, joining the franchise, working with Bishop Collins and working hard to get to where we were. It's been a good journey.
Yeah, great. All good insights. So the name of this podcast, or part of the name, You're Not Alone in Business, it's a tagline that we sort of like to share with people. We think it's a good message. What does that mean to you?
I think it means that people should reach out, and I know I do harass Phil and Deb quite a fair bit, because it's most probably, even nearly all the time, I've always, if I'm going to buy a car, Phil, what's the best way to do this? I've got this option. So there's always the whole way, because I don't want to get into trouble by Phil and Deb. But it's a case
like we hold some sort of stick.
But it is most probably trying to make the right decisions all the time. So there's, running a business, you're making decisions many decisions all the time. So it is trying to, do the right one. So I think I joined a franchise, so I'm not sort of just coming up with my own, marketing plans and stuff like that. So things do get shared around, and systems get shared. And I think people should, I've always taken the approach that it's a sad day when I don't learn something new. So I think you've always got to have an open mind to learn all the time as well.
Yeah, mate, great. Excellent advice. Thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed catching up and hearing a little bit more about your story.
Cool. Thanks. Phil. Been great.